Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to look at Backstage View and Document Properties. Now this is Backstage View opened here. Remember, we get to Backstage View by selecting the File menu. The File menu opens this view and it defaults to the Info tab. Now over here on the right hand side are Properties. On your certification exam you will probably be asked to edit one or more properties. Now some properties are not editable, like size, pages, words, editing time. Those are things you cannot edit. However, most other properties you can. Title, tags, comments. Now last modified and created, obviously you can't. Last printed, you can't. The author is who authored this document, and then whoever last modified. If you're doing collaboration, this is useful to know, well, who's the last person that actually opened this document. Now with Office 2013 we have various options here for contacting people if we have other Microsoft services installed, such as Links or Outlook. I don't have Outlook or Links installed on this machine. Alright, so if we go to Show All Properties, we will get a expanded list with status, categories, subject, hyperlink base, and company. We can also go to Advanced Properties and see even more properties here, including the ability to create our own properties. So Summary has most of the commonly used properties. You might be asked to input a subject, a company. Stats is uneditable. It's just stats about the document. Contents, it's basically the navigation view in a dialog box that we talked about in a previous lesson. And custom, like I said, is where you can create your own custom property. You can name it whatever you want and put in whatever value you want, obviously. So let's say subject, we want to make the subject how to create a web page. Now there is a second way to get to these properties, and that is going to here and show document panel, which will actually put the properties at the top of the page below the ribbon that allows you to edit them while you're actually in the document. And also we can get back to our advanced property dialog by going up here to document properties, picking advanced, same thing I just showed you. Alright, I'm going to close this out and I'm going to go back into Backstage View. Other things you might be asked to do: encrypt a document or inspect a document. So I can encrypt with a password, restrict editing. This opens the same sidebar we talked about in the last lesson. I can restrict access if I have a rights management server installed. More in a corporate setting, I can restrict who can access my file. I can add a digital signature. If I have a digital signature available, I bought one, I can add it to my documents to mark them to say verified my identity as the author. I can mark it as final, which hides all the markup. Comments, track changes are called markup. Hide those and make it read only. So those are my options. Now if I encrypt with a password, it'll ask me to put in the password. I'll use 1234. 1234. Now notice if you forgot your password, it cannot be recovered. Now that's partially true. You can buy a utility that may or may not be able to crack your password. Basically it'll run an attack on the document trying to guess your password. Now it would probably get 1234 pretty quickly. But if you had an elaborate password and forgot it, unfortunately your document is pretty much not going to be usable for you. So if you encrypt your document or otherwise somehow restrict it, don't forget your password. So I'm going to cancel out of that. Alright, we can also inspect the document. Which means we can check for the various things. So we can look for comments, revisions, versions, annotation. We look for properties and what personal information. We can look for headings, task pane, XML, headers, footers, all these different things. So let's inspect our document. and it's going to tell me what it finds. Alright, what it found document properties and an author. So it found personal information. It found my name. I can remove that by clicking here. It found some custom XML data, some keywords or tags. Because this is a file about web pages, I had it tagged. And those are the two things that it found. If I click remove here, it'll remove those from my document. So I'm going to close that, come back into Backstage, and we can also check accessibility or check compatibility. So check for features not supported if we were to save this in a Word 2003 format, the old Word format, or we can check accessibility to see if our document is easy to read for those that might have more trouble reading a screen. As you see here, we have missing text in all of our pictures. It didn't put an alternate text. We don't have a lot of headings, and we have documents not in line, things spaced around in the middle. So these are all things that an accessibility program, basically something that reads the screen, reads words on the screen, would have trouble with. Probably something you won't use often, but it's there. Alright, versions. So we can look at versions if we have multiple versions of our document. Again, this comes into play in collaboration. We can recover unsaved documents in this was a feature introduced in Word 2010. If I close my document and don't save it, if I go right back into Word, I can possibly recover it. Also here, if I'm using shadow copy, a feature in SharePoint or some other Microsoft server apps, I can actually pull a previous deleted file back. But this computer is not on a server or connected to a domain, so you just see recover unsaved documents. We've talked about open, new, save, save as. Remember, this is not a default option. This is because I have Acrobat installed. Let's talk about print. So pretty self-explanatory here. This is pretty much the same view you saw in Office 2010. Page preview over here, options over here. These options right here are the same options we set earlier on the page layout tab. I can click here to go directly to page setup. Page setup is basically the page layout tab in a dialog box. All the options on the page layout tab and a few more are right here. So think of this, like I said, as page layout tab in a dialog box. Printers, we pick our printer we want to use. What do we want to print? Do we want to print it duplex? If our printer if we have the proper driver installed and our printer can duplex automatically, I'll pick one here that can, you will see these options switch. Word is smart enough to realize, hey, this printer can duplex, and automatically do it for you if you pick the appropriate option. Alright, share. So this is SharePoint options here, except for send Adobe PDF again for Acrobat. We can save it to the cloud, which is SkyDrive. We can also export our document. We can change the type, or we can create a PDF or XPS document. And again, this option is not a default option, create Adobe PDF. So if we click here, we basically get right here, create PDF XPF, opens the Save As dialog box with PDF automatically selected. Close, we have talked, close just closes your document. I think I mentioned that in a previous lesson. Account we did detail in a previous lesson. Talked about our theme and our background, adding services in the user account. Options we will tackle in our next video, and I will look for you there.